How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samach Beis, Daf 62 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, yo friends. Today we finish the 6th parak of BavaKama and we start the 7th parak of BavaKama, parak Meruba. I've learned a few dafs so far, parak Meruba. I think parak Meruba has like a reputation of being a difficult daf, parak, but I don't know. So far it's been manageable. But I've only done a few pages of it. It's not a small parak. It's like 20 pages. So, today's daf isn't like too difficult or anything. All right, let's jump in. All right, we're gonna start on daf. I hope I'm not tired. I really shouldn't be tired. It's like 3:15 in the afternoon. Like I shouldn't have short-term memory loss at this hour. I feel like, the other day, Mamash could not remember what was in my brain like 20 seconds earlier. But anyways, but I'm feeling a little tired, but it's too early to be too tired, so I should be okay. All right, we're starting to have some Aleph Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Maybe the Torah will give me strength. That's probably what's going to happen. Okay, Samach Aleph Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom, or alternatively, the first wide line. 2 ways to skin a cat. Tanu Rabbanim, Hamad l'kesagorish vaybo kelim. Ho. A fellow lights a pile on fire. Sounds like fun. And there were vessels inside of it. And I think the assumption is these vessels are like farm vessels, not like a wallet or something. Vidalku, and they got all fired up. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishalim Kol Ma Shoyeh B'soch. So Rabbi Yehuda says you pay for everything. Chacham Omer Ein Mishalim Ela Godish Shel Chitin. Wait, what? Wait, let me just. Exactly. Exactly, right? Yeah, that's right. Right, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think what I'm saying is correct. Okay. So you have this pile, and there's like stuff in the pile, and they all got fired up, like burned. And then, so Rabbi Yehuda says, so you have to pay for everything in the fire, in the pile. Pay for the pile and the vessels and all this stuff. And Chacham say, Einu Mishalim Ela Godish Shel Chitin O Godish Shel Seorin. Whereas the Chacham say, no, you only pay for a pile of wheat or a pile of barley. And what about all those vessels? Well, we view the space that the vessels are taking up, as if they're filled up with grain. I.e., you pay for a pile of grain, and I don't care if there were vessels inside there, according to the Chachamim. We view those vessels as if they were just more grain, and you pay for the pile of grain. When do we say this? That the Chachamim say you only pay for the grain, and Rabbi Yehuda says you pay for everything, vessels, grain, everything. B'madlik b'soch Shalo, if he lights it in his space, v'alcha v'dalka b'soch shel chavero, and it went and spread to his friend's area and burnt down his pile. Avamadlik b'soch shel chavero, but if he goes directly to his friend's chotzer, I don't know, space, whatever, property is probably a good word here. Right, he goes to his friend's property and just lights his pile on fire. So then, Mishalim Kamasha Hoya you would pay for everything in there. But remember, the rabbis had said yesterday, I believe, though, you would not pay for like random stuff that's in there, like a wallet that's in there, specifically like farm-related tools, which is why I said that. I hope what I'm saying is correct. Umod Rabbi Yehuda agrees to the Chachamim that you would not pay for the vessels. B'mashil makom lachvero, that if Shimon says to Reuven, hey Reuven, you can put your pile in my property. Lahagdish Godish, to make a pile. V'higdish, and so Reuven says, oh, sweet. And he makes a pile in Shimon's property. It's like, dude, this is awesome. V'hitmin, and then he like hid stuff in the pile. Shein Mishalim Ela Dmei Godish Bilvad. In that case, Shimon is only going to pay for the value, and he's only accepting responsibility for the pile, but not for the stuff that's inside of it. Lahagdish Chitin. If he was given permission to make a pile of wheat, but instead he made a pile of barley. Sorin vegdish chitin. If he was only given permission to make a pile of barley, now remember, barley is less expensive than wheat. It's a cheaper thing than wheat. So if he was only given permission to make a pile of barley, but he went and instead made a pile of wheat, which is more expensive, chitin, if he was allowed to make a pile of wheat, v'chipan besorin, but he made a pile of wheat, but he covered the outer layer with barley. So to the owner of the property, it seemed like it was barley. Sorin, if he only had permission to make a pile of barley, v'chipan bechitim, and he made a pile of barley, but he covered it with wheat, so it looked like a pile of wheat. Sheinu mishalim ela demei sorin bilvad. In all of those scenarios, he would only pay for the value of the wheat. Amar Rava, says Rava, Hanosein dinar zav liisha. A fellow gives a golden dinar to a fella. Ve'omar la, and he says to her, Hizari bo, be careful, shel kesefu, be careful with it, it's silver. Interesting. So he gives her gold and says, be careful, it's silver. Hazikatu, if she damages it, like deliberately, like throws it in the river or something. So Mishalem is dinar zav, she has to pay for a golden coin, not a silver coin, mishum da amarla, because he says to her, "My havalich gabe dazkase." Why the heck did you do that? Like, I don't care what, gold, silver, it makes no difference. Like, why were you throwing it into the river? Pashabo, but if she was simply just negligent with it, so then mishalem mishal kesef. She's only going to be responsible for a silver coin, not a gold coin to amarle, because she says to him, "Look, Nitirusa de chaspa kabili olai. I only accepted upon myself to guard silver. Nitirusa de daiva lo kabili olai. I did not accept upon myself to guard gold, and therefore I was negligent. The negligence that I displayed was negligence with regard to what I thought was silver. But that doesn't, that doesn't necessarily apply. As far as I'm concerned, I was guarding silver and I acted accordingly, and therefore I'm only going to be responsible for being negligent as far as silver is concerned. Amle Rav Motche Rav Ashi. So Rav Motche says to Rav Ashi, Atun b'Rav Masnisu la. You attribute that to Rav, right? According to you, that was Rav's statement. But we mimasnisa pshitalan. We learn it this halacha that she would only be chayiv for silver from from the brisa that we just quoted, which is chitin v'chipan besorin. If he was given permission for a pile of wheat, and he makes a pile of wheat, but he covers it in barley, sorin v'chipan v'chitin. If he was given permission for barley, but he ended up making a pile of wheat, Enu meshalem elo dmei sorin bilvad. He only pays the value of the barley. Alma. So we see that Omar Lay, that the owner of the property says, right? Meaning when he said, look, you can make a pile of where am I? Anyway, so Omar Lay nitirusa desaire kabili olay. Look, what I accepted upon myself, what I told you is you can make a pile of barley. What I accepted upon myself was to guard your barley, not to guard your wheat. And anything to do with wheat, I'm not responsible for. I'm only responsible for barley. So here also, when it comes to the gold and the silver, she says to him, lo kabili olai. Look, you had given it to me and said that this is silver. I accepted upon myself to guard silver. I did not accept upon myself to guard gold. Omar Rab, says Rav, Shma is milsa the Rabbi Yehuda. I learned epist. I applied a halacha based on Rabbi Yehuda, right? That Rabbi Yehuda had said that when you burn down a pile, you're chayav also for anything hidden in there. And I'm not sure what this, sort of adjacent halacha is, or this halacha that's derived from Rabbi Yehuda it is. I don't remember what it is. Shmuel says Shmuel v'lo yada abba my shmile Rabbi Yehuda. What Rab doesn't know, what we learned from Rabbi Yehuda, wait, what? That so Rabbi Yehuda says that things that are hidden in the fire you're a chayiv for. Okay, so if Shimon burns down Reuven's pile and there's stuff in the pile. So Shimon is going to be chayiv for that. Okay. So we say Also takonas nigzal be'isho, that they apply the takonas nigzal be'isho. Who could tell me what that means? What it means is there's something called the takonas nigzal, which means that a person who gets robbed, I don't know these halachas, where is it going to come up in the future? Masechta Shavuos. When are we learning Masechta Shavuos? Well, we have to learn half, we have to learn the second half of BavaKama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra, then I think Sanhedrin, and then Shavuos, maybe Sanhedrin, then Makis, and then Shavuos. So we got some time. Got at least a year until we get to Shavuos, but much more than that. Maybe like 2 years until we get to Shavuos. Alright. So apparently, if somebody gets robbed, he can swear about how much was robbed from, how much he got robbed, and then he can receive it, right? So if he claims that he was robbed $100, so he could swear that he was robbed $100, then he can collect $100 from the thief. So the same thing applies to the fire. That if his Rabbi Yehuda says that when a pile gets burned down, you pay also, right? You chayiv also for the hidden stuff in there. So the person whose pile it was can swear, look, all these things, these are the things that were hidden in the pile, and then he can collect them. But Amemar asks, also takonas nigzol b'moser o lo. Do we have a takonas nigzol by a moser? A moser is a guy who, he's a tattletale. He tells on somebody else to the authorities, and then the authorities come and take away his property or something, right? Cause him financial damage. So the victim of this crime, can he swear how much financial damage was caused to him by the authorities because of this snitch, and then he can collect it from the snitch? So boy, Amimra asks, also takonas nigzol b'moser o lo. Is there takonas nigzol by this scenario? Can the victim swear how much the damage has caused him and collect it? So liba demanda Omer lo daininon dina degaimi lo tibaylach dimasirus nami lo daininon pam pam pam. So if you hold that we don't judge judgments of garmi, of causalities, well, this is a causality, right? The tattletaled, which then caused the victim to be victimized. So if you say that we don't judge those cases, well, then we don't judge this case. But the question is, according to the opinion who says that we do judge causalities, so then also takonas nigzal b'moser the mishtabah v'shakil olo teku. So do we have the this takana by a moser that the victim can swear how much damage was caused him and collect? We say ich weiß nicht. Ugavra de botash bekaspes de chavre. A fellow kicked his friend's money box. Shaje benaire, and it went flying into the river. Also Mare, so the owner of the money box comes. He says, this is how much money I had in the money box. Yosef Ravashi was sitting. He was considering the situation. Ki agavna mai. What's the halacha? What's the halacha here? Right? He's coming. He's saying, this guy, he kicked my money box into the river. This is how much money I had. Can he collect it or not? So Amale Ravina Lerav Acha Brei Derava V'Amila Rav Acha Brei Derava Rav Ashi Lav Hainu Masnisin. Is this not our Mishnah? It's not that we learn in our Mishnah. Umodim Chacham Rabbi Yehuda, that the Chacham agree with Rabbi Yehuda b'Madlik Esabira, that if a fellow lights a building, lights a house on fire, Shemishan Kumash B'Socho, that the arsonist, the arsoner, the arsonator, the arson boy, the arsonist, the arsoner, the guy who did it, so he's got to pay for everything that's in the house. Shekein derech bnei adam laniach bibatim, because people normally leave stuff in houses. so therefore he's responsible. So therefore here as well, people normally leave money in money boxes, so therefore he's entitled to receive the amount, and therefore receive the money that was in there, and therefore I assume the point is that he should be able to swear how much was in there and collect it. So Ravashi says, look, if we're talking about that there was money in the money box in a chinam, yeah, of course he can claim how much was in there and receive it. But here he's saying that there was jewelry, that there was a jewel in the money box. So in that case, do people normally leave jewels in money boxes or not? If they do, then he would be able to, I imagine, swear and receive it. If not, so then he cannot receive it. Teku ich veis nisht. Rav Yemar le Rav Ashi says, Rav Yemar to Rav Ashi, toin kasa de chaspa bebira mai. What if a guy's house is burned down and he claims that he had a silver goblet in the house? Omar lay. So Rav Ashi says, Chazina, inish omiru. Look, if he's a wealthy fellow who would, it makes sense that he would have a silver goblet. De islay kas de chasbo. Inami, alternatively, inish mehemna, he's a very trustworthy fellow. Who demafkide inche gabe, that he serves as like a sort of like kind of like a bank. People trust him. People deposit things at his house. So mishtab v'shakil, sure, he could swear and then collect it. Okay, Kilo, if we have reason to believe that Itaka had a silver goblet in there, so he could swear and collect. Be low, but if we don't have reason to believe so, lav kol kamine, then we don't just trust him. Now, this is a interesting Gemara right here. It's an important Gemara. It's a short little Gemara, but it's an important thing. Rav Adabre, Rav Avila, Rav Ashi, ma ben gazlan lechamsin. Ho. What's the difference between a gazlan and a chamson? What's the difference between gezel and chamas? So Omerle, Rav Ashi responds, chamson yoiv demei, gazlan lo yoiv demei. A chamson is somebody who takes something and then gives the money, whereas a gazlan doesn't give money, right? So a fellow who just comes up to you and snatches your wallet, so then and runs away, that's wallet's probably about the worst example I can give. A fellow who sees that you just left the pizza shop with a pizza pie, and he just comes and snatches the pizza pie from your hands and runs for it, that's a gazlan. A fellow who sees that you just left the pizza shop with a fresh pie of pizza, and he sticks the $20 bill in your pocket and takes your pizza and runs, that is a gazlan. That's called chamas. That's a chamsin. Right? A chamsin gives the money. Right? He steals it, but then he gives you the money. Right? Maybe you wanted that pizza pie, and he just took it from you and gives you money. So Rav Ashi says to Rav Avya, "Iyoiv dmei chamsin karisle." What? So if he gives money, then you call him a chamsin. Chamsin seems like a bad thing. But the Amar of Huna, Rav Huna says, Talua v'zovin zabine. If they hang him, they mamish give an offer he can't refuse, and he sells, right? Either your brains or your signature is going to be on that paper, right? So they make an offer that he can't refuse, and under this context, in this context, he makes the sale. So then it's a valid sale. So here also it seems that he's just taking it and throwing money. So why would it be called a chamsin? Apparently it's a valid sale. Look, when we're talking about the offer you can't refuse, and we're saying it's a valid sale because he ultimately said rotza ani, I want to do it. But when we talk about chamsin, he wanted that pizza pie for himself, and therefore you're going to be so that's called a chamsin because he didn't want to give up the pizza pie. Friends, do you miss my complaining about the noise outside, about how I can't focus and I'm so distracted, or are you satisfied with the other things that I find to complain about? Okay. Okay, new Mishnah. gets sheyotze mitachas patish. Ho. So if you have a hammer and you're knocking away, and a spark goes flying, v'izik, and causes damage, chayv. All right, fellows, chayv. Gomosho yiton pishton. Ho. You have a camel that was laden with flax. Vaver b'rishus harabim, it's walking in rishus harabim. V'nichnas pishtano lesoch achonus, and the flax gets into a store. V'dolku b'ner shel chenvani, and the flax then caught fire from the shopkeeper's flame. V'hidlik esabira, and then the whole house caught on fire, the whole building caught on fire. Bal gomel chayav. So the owner of the camel is chayiv, right? Ultimately, it was his flax that went into the store of the chenvani and caused the fire. It's his fault. But if the shopkeeper had put his candle outside in the rishus harabim, hachenvani chayiv, well then the shopkeeper is going to be chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'ner Chanukah potter. Rabbi Yehuda says, but if we're talking about the flame being a Chanukah candle, so in that case, the shopkeeper is potter because he's allowed to put it outside, as Ashi says. Okay, no, this is later, but he's allowed to put it outside if it's the Chanukah licht. Cool. We've seen this a number of times already in Masechta Shabbos. We already saw it. I think we saw it earlier in Masechta BavaKama. Omer Ravina says, the Gemara says, Ravina mishmei deravit, shmaminu midrab Yehuda. So we learned from Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you're potter by Ner Chanukah. Ner Chanukah mitzvah le'anicha besoch asar. Ho. So we see from Rabbi Yehuda that the Ner Chanukah should ideally be placed within 10 tvachim of the ground. De'i sagadatich l'maala me'asar, because if it enters your mind that it should be above 10 tvachim, yes. Amai Omar Rabbi Yehuda Ner Chanukah potter. Why would Rabbi Yehuda say that Ner Chanukah is potter? Le'malei, okay, so I guess is going to be right. It's going to be potter for burning the flax on the camel. But le'malei, the owner of the camel should say to the shopkeeper, "Havelach lanucha l'mayla migamel v'rochbo." You should have put it higher up. Rather, it must be that the mitzvah is to put it lower down. Meaning, we said that, okay, so the Mishnah had said that if the shopkeeper puts his candle outside and then then like a whole fire happens because the flax on the camel gets stuck in the fire, so we said in that case the shopkeeper is chayiv. But if it's Chanukah, so then the shopkeeper is potter, and the camel guy loses all of his flax. But so from the fact that we're saying that the shopkeeper is potter, now the flax that's on the camel is like hanging off of the camel within 10 tvachim, right? It's hanging down to the ground within 10 tvachim. Rishus harabim is the assumption, and it's getting caught and it's lighting on fire there. And we're saying that the shopkeeper is potter. So from the fact that the shopkeeper is potter, it must be that the mitzvah of Chanukah candles is within 10 tvachim of the ground. And because there's a mitzvah that the Chanukah candle should be so low down, that is why he had the Chanukah candle so low down, and that is why he's allowed to, and that's why if the flax catches on fire, the shopkeeper is potter, and the owner of the camel cannot say, hey, what was your camel doing down there, right? Because if the mitzvah was that at least equally as good, if it's higher up, above they can make it higher, so then the owner of the camel should have said, hey, what'd you do that for? Why did you put your candle so low? You should have made it higher. So from the fact that he cannot make that argument, and the shopkeeper is potter, so that means that it must be because the mitzvah is to put it down there, and even though that means that the flax of the camel might catch on fire. So we say, no, I'll even say that the mitzvah is above 10 tvachim, my omart. And now what would the camel owner say to the shopkeeper? What, that you should have put it higher than a camel and its rider, i.e. in a place that it wouldn't get caught on fire, that nothing would catch on fire? Well, since he's doing a mitzvah, we don't want to burden him. We want him to be able to do a mitzvah benachis, chillin'. So therefore, we say, look, if he wants to put it lower down, put it lower down. We're not going to hack his chinik. All right. Fine. Omer of Kahana, says of Kahana Darshav, Nosin by Manyomi Mishmei Derab, Tanchum Ner Chaneke, Sheinicha, Lemaila Mesim Amma Psula, that if a Ner Chaneke, a Chaneke licht is above 20 Amis, it's too high, it's possible, Kisuke Uchimavoy, just like a Suke, right? The Suke has to be within 20 Amis, as well as a Mavoy. And right, we learned Masechta Sukkah, we learned Masechta Erevin, right? Because you have to be able to see it, and as Rashi points out, it's all about Persume Nisa, it's all about seeing the miracle, and therefore the Chanukah menorah would have to be within 20 amis of the ground. Hadranolach Hakones, we'll come back to Perak Hakones. Moving on, says the Mishnah. We now begin Perak Meruba. Meruba midas tashlume kefel, midas tashlume arba'a va chamisha. Bum param param param. Can anybody tell me what these things are? Who can tell me what kefel is? Kefel is if a ganif, a fellow, steals epis, so he then needs to when he kind of gets busted and he's got to pay back, he has to pay back not just the amount that he stole, but double. He has to pay back twice the amount that he stole. And now if he steals a sheep or if he steals a cow and then he slaughters it or he sells it, well then it ups the ante. Then he needs to, so if it is a sheep, he pays 5 times the amount. If it is an ox, he pays 4 times the amount. But yes, that's what's called arba v'chamisha, 4 and 5 times the amount. That if he steals an ox or a sheep and then either he sells it or he slaughters it, so then he has to pay back the value times either 4 or 5, depending on if it is a ox or a sheep or not, respectively. Okay, so starting from the beginning of the Mishnah, Meruba midas tashlume kefel. So kefel is kind of, more intense, is greater than midas tashlume arba v'chamisha. Then, I guess the characteristics of kefel are stronger, more significant than the characteristics of arba v'chamisha shemidas tashlume kefel. Neheges bein b'davar she'esh bo ruach uvein b'davar she'ein bo ruach, because kefel applies to whether they are animate objects or inanimate objects. Is animate kind of, why not, right? As far as I'm concerned, I think I was talking about an arsonator before, so if arsonator is a word, then animate is a word. So whether it is an animate object or an inanimate object, if it's alive or not, if it's just like a fork, Right. So kefil would apply to animate and inanimate objects. Now, of course, kamuvan, arba v'chamisha only applies to oxen and sheep, and that's it. Shinemar, as the pasuk says, ki ignov ish shor oseh utvacho mechar v'gomer. That if a fellow steals a ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, etc. In a goynev achar aganif, b'shalom tashlume kefel. Okay, so wow. So you have Reuven and he's got a pizza pie, and then Shimon steals it from him, and then Levi steals it from him. So Levi doesn't pay kefel. Right? Ena goynev achar aganif mishalem tashlume kefel. The second ganif does not pay kefel. V'lo toveach v'lo amocher achar aganif mishalem tashlume arba v'chamisha. And so I guess you have a ganif, and then somebody else, I guess, maybe steals it from him, and then slaughters it or sells it. So then there's no arba v'chamisha there. Only the ganif himself, if he would pay kefel, or if he slaughters it or sells it, would pay 4 and 5, right? Arba v'chamisha. Says the Gemara, ve'ilumidas tashlume kefel noheges bein beganif bein betoin tainis ganif umidas tashlume arba v'chamisha eino noheges elo beganif bilvad lo katani Misayele le Reb Chia bar Abba, the Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Amar Reb Yochanan, hatoin tanes ganef bepikadon, misham tashlum kefel, tovachumacher mishalim, tashlum Abba v'chamisha. Ho, Chevre. What's toin tanes ganef? We learned about this the other day. At least we learned about right by Aveda. Toin tanes ganef is when a fellow claims that it was stolen. Okay, and he claims that it was stolen. Right, so you have like a shomer, right? You have a fellow, he's a custodian. You have a fellow, he's a custodian. And then the owner comes and he says, okay, I want to get my thing back. He says it's stolen. It's stolen. Ma la'asot. Turns out that's not true. He himself is the thief. He stole it. So in that case, he needs to pay kefil. Okay. And what happens, and that's what's called toin tainas ganef. He makes a claim that it was stolen, but it's not true. It wasn't stolen. And he gets busted. So then he has to pay kefil. Now, if he slaughtered it, or if he sold it, so the shaila is, does he pay arba v'chamisha? So from the fact that we said meruba midas tashlum kefil, midas tashlum arba v'chamisha, right? I'm reading back from the Mishnah. We said, well, kefil is greater than arba v'chamisha because kefil applies to animate and inanimate things, whereas arba v'chamisha is only by shor v'seh bilvad. We said that, apparently we're saying that's the only distinction, implying that in terms of kefil and arba v'chamisha by toin tainas ganef, there doesn't seem to be any distinction. So let's read that again in the Gemara from the beginning. V'ilu midas tashlumei kefil noheges bein beganef, bein b'toin tainas ganef, umidas tashlumei arba v'chamisha eno noheges elo beganef bilvad lo katani. And it does not state that a difference as well would be that kefil applies both to ganef and toin tainas ganef, whereas arba v'chamisha is only by a ganef, but not by toin tainas ganef. So it means that there is no distinction, and that arba v'chamisha also applies to toin tainas ganef. That if he claims it was stolen, but it wasn't, and instead he ate it, so he would be chayt arba v'chamisha. Misayel le Reb Chia bar Abba, and this takis supports Reb Chia bar Abba. The Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Amar Reb Yochanan, had toin tainas ganef bepikadin, that a fellow who's toin tainas ganef, he claims that the thing that he was guarded, that he was custodying, got stolen. Mishan tashlum kefil, so if he gets busted, he has to pay double. Tavachu macher, if he slaughtered it or if he sold it, mishalim tashlum arba v'chamisha, he has to pay arba v'chamisha. Ikadam, those who have the kind of the same deliberations but slightly different. Lema misayele Reb Chia bar Abba, let us suggest that this supports Reb Chia bar Abba, Reb Chia bar Abba, Reb Yochanan. Hatoin tanes ganef bepigadin, that just like we said, that a fellow is toin tanes ganef bepigadin, misham tashlum kefil, pays kefil, tavachu macher, misham tashlum arba v'chamisha, pays arba v'chamisha. But the Gemara says this is not necessarily a proof for that, because maybe there is a distinction. Maybe by toin tainas ganef there is no arba v'chamisha. Okay, well if that's the case, then why do we only list that the difference between kefil and arba v'chamisha is that kefil is by animate and inanimate objects, whereas arba v'chamisha is only by shor v'seh? Apparently there's another distinction if we want to reject it and say that the other distinction is that arba v'chamisha is only by a ganef, but not by toin tainas ganef, to which the Gemara says, meh, mikatoni ein bein. The Mishnah doesn't say that there are no differences between kefil and arba v'chamisha, except that kefil is animate and inanimate, and arba v'chamisha is only shor v'seh. It doesn't say that. It does not say that the only difference is. No, it says meruba katoni. It says, look, kefil is has more applications than arba v'chamisha. As we see that kefil is both animate and inanimate, whereas arba v'chamisha is only shor v'seh. But Tana v'shayir, but there are other examples too. Again, it doesn't say ein bein. It doesn't say this is the only difference. It says there are differences. Meruba. There are more applications for kefil. But you could say that what another application would be? That arba v'chamisha is limited to ganef, but not toin tainas ganef, whereas kefil is by both. So it's inconclusive about whether or not this Mishnah is a support or not for Reb Chia bar Abba. Friends, that was the Samach Beis of Masechta BavaKama. Okay. So we continue talking about a shtickle about if you have to pay for the stuff that's in the pile, and what was your intent when you accepted to take care of the pile. We had a few tekus about the concept of about takonis nigzol, that when a person can swear about that which was stolen from him. Then we discussed. And then we made a distinction between a gazlan and a chamsin, which is the reason why I'm highlighting is because I think it's like I don't know. This is like a thing that comes up. I don't know. Just whatever. I don't know. This is the distinction. And we talked about shtikol Hanukkah, right? About if things catch on fire in Rosh Hashanah, how you're potter by Hanukkah. And then we started the vaunted parak of Meruba in BavaKama, and we're gonna tomorrow we're gonna be getting into, for at least the next 2 days, we're gonna be getting into Klal and Prat and Yonim Kaele. So Chevre, that was Daf Samach Beis of Masechta BavaKama. I hope you enjoy. Peace out.